Elon Musk is worth over $230 billion. He could hire a personal assistant for every hour of the day, a chef for every meal, a driver for every trip, a specialist for every task. Instead, he answers his own emails at 1 a.m., schedules his own meetings, books his own flights. He recently admitted he spends 80% of his time on problems only he can solve, 0% on things anyone else could do. Meanwhile, a 29-year-old marketing director in Austin making $180,000 a year just hired a house cleaner, a meal prep service, a dog walker, and a virtual assistant. She outsources her laundry, her grocery shopping, her calendar management. She spends $3,200 a month on services designed to buy back her time. On paper, she's optimizing her life like a CEO. In reality, she just traded 40 hours a month managing vendors, coordinating schedules, and fixing mistakes for the 30 hours these services were supposed to save her. She now spends her evenings texting her dog walker about pickup times instead of walking her dog. She's busier than ever, broker than ever, and somehow has less time than when she did everything herself. One of them understands something fundamental about time. The other has fallen for the most expensive productivity myth of our generation. We've been sold a lie by productivity gurus, lifestyle bloggers, and time management experts. The lie says your time is too valuable to waste on menial tasks. That successful people delegate everything. That if you're still doing your own laundry, grocery shopping, or email management, you're playing small. But look at Warren Buffett, worth $138 billion, who still reads annual reports himself instead of having analysts summarize them. When asked why he doesn't delegate research, he said, "If I don't read it myself, I don't actually know it. I just know what someone else thinks about it." Bill Gates, despite running a $70 billion foundation, still does his own dishes every night. He calls it meditation time. MacKenzie Scott, worth over $30 billion, doesn't have a personal shopper. She drives herself to the grocery store. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart and once the richest person alive, drove his own pickup truck and cut his own hair at a local barber shop until his death. Are they inefficient? No. They understand a secret the hustle culture crowd completely misses. Delegation is a tax on your understanding. Outsourcing is friction. Convenience is a cognitive liability. While the newly successful are busy building empires of personal assistance, smart money is busy staying dangerously close to reality, to raw information, and to the fundamental operations of their own lives. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time studying why billionaires act so counterintuitively when it comes to their time. If you've ever felt guilty for not outsourcing more, wondered why successful people seem to do more themselves than you'd expect, or felt exhausted by the complexity of your optimized life, hit that subscribe button. Today we're dismantling what I call the delegation trap, and escaping it might be the single most important thing you do for both your wealth and your sanity. Here's the thing about billionaires that productivity gurus never mention. They didn't become billionaires by delegating everything possible. They became billionaires by obsessively protecting direct contact with reality. The layer of assistants, managers, and coordinators you see around celebrities and executives, that's not what leverage looks like. That's what information decay looks like. That's what decision paralysis looks like. According to a Harvard Business School study from 2017, executives spend an average of 23 hours per week in meetings that exist primarily to coordinate other people's work. A 2020 McKinsey report found that middle managers spend 54% of their time managing the people they hired to save them time. These people built scaffolding around their lives, and now they're trapped inside it. To a delegator, time is a resource to be redistributed. Tasks are poker chips to be moved around until none land on your square. To a builder, time is intelligence gathering. Every task you outsource is a sensor you just disconnected from reality. Every vendor you hire is a new potential point of failure that you must now monitor. When Bezos was asked why he still led Amazon's annual planning process himself, instead of delegating to his leadership team, he said, "The moment I stop understanding the details is the moment I stop being useful." The CEO of Amazon wasn't too important to spend 40 hours reading PowerPoints. He understood that distance from detail is distance from truth. Billionaires view their attention as an antenna. Delegating might free up time, but it degrades signal quality. You're no longer experiencing reality firsthand. You're experiencing someone's interpretation of reality. And every layer of interpretation introduces distortion. When Musk looks at the option to hire someone to manage his email, he doesn't see time saved. He sees the critical feedback loop severed, the customer complaint he'd never read, the engineering problem he'd never notice, the early warning sign he'd miss. The cost of delegation is not the salary. It's the compounding ignorance it creates. The math of what convenience actually costs is far more brutal than anyone admits. When you outsource a task, you don't just lose the time it would have taken. You lose the learning it would have generated. You lose the pattern recognition it would have built. You lose the intuition it would have sharpened. Take hiring a meal prep service for $400 a month. That's $4,800 per year. Over 10 years, $48,000 spent. But here's what else you lost. 520 hours of learning how your body responds to different foods. Zero development of cooking skills that save money forever. No understanding of nutrition that protects your health. No relationship with the activity that could have been stress relief. The meal service didn't cost $48,000. It cost your culinary competence, your nutritional intuition, and a decade of compound learning about what fuels your specific body. You didn't buy convenience. You bought permanent dependence. Multiply this across every outsourced task. The house cleaning that means you never notice the leak until it's catastrophic. The virtual assistant who filters your emails so you miss the pattern in customer complaints. The financial advisor who manages your money so you never learn investing. And each one creates a knowledge debt that compounds over time. This brings us to complexity over simplicity, the hidden operating system of the delegation trap. We think successful people have armies of helpers because they're overwhelmed. The truth is the opposite. They're overwhelmed because they built armies of helpers. Every service you hire creates new work. The meal prep service needs dietary preferences updated. The house cleaner needs access scheduled. The virtual assistant needs training on your systems. The dog walker needs your vet info. Each service is a new relationship to manage, a new variable to monitor, a new potential failure point. These services aren't freeing your time. They're fragmenting your attention. There's a concept in systems theory called requisite variety. It states that to control a system, you need as much complexity in your control mechanism as exists in the system itself. Translation: the more complex you make your life through delegation, the more complex your management of that delegation must become. You're not escaping work. You're trading direct, simple work for indirect, complex work. Buffett lives in the same house with the same simple routine he's had for 60 years. No staff beyond basic security. He makes his own breakfast. He drives himself to the office. He reads all day without anyone filtering what reaches him. His life has almost zero complexity. That's not because he's cheap. It's because complexity is expensive in ways that don't show up on a budget. When you overdelegate, you become a manager of people instead of a manager of outcomes. A personal assistant is not just an employee. They're a single point of failure. They quit, you're paralyzed. They make a mistake, you're responsible. They get sick, your life stops. You just turned yourself into a fragile system dependent on another human's reliability. Smart money builds anti-fragile systems. Systems that work whether anyone shows up or not. That means keeping core operations simple, internal, and within your direct control. Now you might think, but they have executive assistants. Yes, but notice what they delegate versus what they don't. Bezos had an assistant manage his calendar, but he read every letter from customers himself. Gates has people run his foundation's operations, but he reads every grant proposal himself. They delegate execution, never learning. They delegate coordination, never decision-making. They delegate logistics, never strategy. If a task builds your understanding of your business, your body, your life, you do it yourself. If it's purely mechanical and teaches you nothing, then maybe you delegate. The rule is, outsource the task, never the thinking. Most people get this backwards. They try to outsource the thinking and keep the busy work. They hire financial advisors but refuse to learn basic investing. They hire assistants but won't give up checking their own inbox 47 times a day. They've created the worst of both worlds. Paying for services they undermine by refusing to trust them while simultaneously failing to build their own competence. Social media has turbocharged the psychological pressure to look optimized. A 2021 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people who post about their optimized routines spend 34% more on productivity services than those who don't, but report no increase in actual productivity. You're not comparing yourself to your coworkers anymore. You're comparing yourself to influencers selling courses on 10x productivity and CEOs with 12-person executive teams. None of these are realistic reference points. Buffett has never had a smartphone. He's not on Slack, not on social media, not in the optimization Olympics. He just reads, thinks, and decides in a quiet office in Omaha. The rest of us are swimming in an ocean of manufactured urgency. The delegation isn't about need. It's about signaling. And signaling is expensive. If a billionaire tried to out-optimize a productivity influencer, they'd go broke on tools and tutors and services. So they opt out entirely. They realize optimization is a bottomless pit. There's always another service to hire. There's always another task to outsource. The only way to win the optimization game is not to play. By keeping life simple, they maintain a massive gap between complexity and control. That gap is their power. What allows them to move fast when everyone else is coordinating? The person with 10 services managing their life is fragile. One coordinator fails, everything falls apart. The person doing 10 things themselves is anti-fragile. Nothing breaks that they can't immediately fix. Real wealth is self-reliance. Performative success needs a team. Someone who can't survive a weekend without their assistant, their cleaner, their meal service, their driver, they're not successful, they're dependent. They built a life they can't operate. The billionaire who can change a tire, cook a meal, and answer their own email is free. They don't need infrastructure. They are the infrastructure. The career-long math is staggering. Take two people, both 28, both earning $90,000. Person A reads every productivity blog, hires a cleaner for $200/month, meal service for $400/month, virtual assistant for $800/month, laundry service for $150/month. That's $1,550 per month, or $18,600 per year. Over 30 years at 8% returns, that's $2.1 million. Person B does these tasks themselves. Takes maybe 8 hours per week. Uses that time to think, to learn, to notice patterns. Invests the $18,600 per year. By 58, person B has $2.1 million more in assets. But here's what doesn't show up in the spreadsheet. Person B also has 30 years of compounded learning. They understand cooking, so they're healthier. They understand cleaning, so they notice maintenance issues early. They manage their own calendar, so they understand their energy patterns. Person A has 30 years of compounded dependence. They can't function without services. They never built basic life competence. They're richer on paper, but utterly helpless in practice. Same income. Same hours. Same lifetime. A $2 million difference plus a massive competence gap, explained entirely by whether they stayed close to reality or insulated themselves from it. We think delegation will make us permanently more productive. Science says it won't. You hire the assistant. For 2 months, you feel like a CEO. Then you adapt. The assistant becomes your new baseline. But now you have a new problem. Managing the assistant takes time. The relief you felt evaporates, but the expense remains forever. You're paying a permanent premium for a temporary feeling of control. Research consistently shows that people overestimate how much time they'll save from services by 60%. You think the cleaner saves you 4 hours a week. In reality, you spend 2 hours coordinating with them, fixing what they missed, and managing the household complexity. You netted 2 hours but paid for 4. Billionaires understand this intuitively. They find a baseline of direct operation that works and stay there. They refuse to pay the complexity tax. This framing has it backwards, that billionaires can afford to do things themselves because they have security. The self-reliance was not a product of their wealth. It was the cause of it. Musk was personally coding at Tesla and SpaceX long after he could have hired 100 engineers. Bezos was packing boxes at Amazon years into profitability. Every hour they didn't delegate to someone less capable was an hour they maintained direct quality control and learning. If they had hired layers of management early, the companies would have ossified. The bureaucracy would have killed speed. They'd have lost connection to the product. The self-reliance came first. The empire followed. A 2019 study in Administrative Science Quarterly confirmed this. Founders who stay operationally involved longer build more valuable companies than those who delegate quickly. Staying in the details isn't micromanagement. It's maintaining signal clarity. Here's how to apply it. First, audit your services. List everything you pay someone else to do. For each one, ask, is this building dependence or buying leverage? If you couldn't do this task competently yourself right now, it's building dependence. Cut it. Second, protect your learning loops. Never outsource anything that teaches you about your business, your health, your finances, or your core life operations. These are your sensors. Disconnecting them makes you blind. Third, calculate the true cost of delegation. Every service has a visible price and an invisible complexity tax. The meal service is $400/month plus 3 hours managing it, plus the loss of cooking skills, plus the inability to adjust food when traveling. When you see the total cost, the convenience loses its appeal. Fourth, embrace strategic inconvenience. Do hard things that keep you sharp. Musk famously sleeps on the factory floor during production crunches. Not because he has to, but because it keeps him connected to reality. If your life has zero friction, you're not learning anymore. Fifth, build simple, robust systems. Instead of hiring 5 services, build one simple routine you can execute anywhere. Breakfast you can make in 10 minutes. Cleaning system that takes 30 minutes daily. Email protocol that keeps inbox at 0. Simplicity scales. Complexity fails. The Austin marketing director with $3,200 in monthly services thinks she's winning because her life looks optimized. She's losing. She can't function without her infrastructure. 50, she'll be even more dependent, even more fragile, even less capable. Musk, running companies worth hundreds of billions, still doing things himself, could survive being dropped anywhere with nothing and rebuild. One is free. One is trapped. The difference isn't income. It's understanding that looking optimized and being capable are often opposite. Here's your homework. Identify one service you're using right now. Cancel it for 1 month. Do the task yourself. Notice what you learn. Feel the difference between the dopamine of convenience and the dopamine of competence. Once you feel the power of self-reliance, the urge to outsource fades. You start to see the matrix. In a world of infinite delegation, self-reliance is the most powerful advantage you can build. Stay close to reality. Learn continuously. Let the people who need to look optimized keep coordinating their armies of assistants while you quietly build something that actually works. If this changed how you see productivity culture, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.